Recently, I hooked up with another IELTS teacher to practice some IELTS speaking topics, questions, and answers. And in this conversation, you can see how natural spoken English is the key to success in IELTS speaking. Hello, my name is Keith from English Speaking Success and the website The Keith Speaking Academy. Here to help you become a confident speaker of English so you can get the score you need in the IELTS speaking test. You know, recently I was delighted to have the opportunity to speak to a fellow teacher from Vietnam, and her name is Ha An, and we were chatting and we both agreed that the key, right, to IELTS speaking, and this is something many students miss, is to speak natural conversational English. So we wanted to do an IELTS speaking mock test, but present it as a conversation to show you how being natural and speaking natural spoken English can really help you in the IELTS speaking test, as well as showing you some lovely language you can also use and practice. So in this video, you will see the conversation that we have. We talk about the topics of hometown and weather, part 1 topics. We don't do part 2, and a part 3 topic of searching for information. And what I'll do is after each topic, I'll just point out some of the useful language for you. I think the conversation will give you interesting language, ideas, inspiration, and that focus on natural spoken English. You can get a PDF of the language and the techniques that we use just by going to the description below, clicking on the link, and you can get that straight away. Right, let's jump in to the conversation. Great. Okay, right. Ha, Anne, it's nice to see you. How are you?
Hello, Keith. Nice to see you. I'm pretty excited to be in this video because it's actually the first time that I am featured in someone else's YouTube video. Pretty
Wow,
excited. Yes.
that's fantastic. Well, I'm also very excited about it. Looking forward to our conversation together.
Yes,
Tell
sure.
me a little bit. I mean, I know you're from Vietnam, but tell me more about where you're from.
Yes. At the moment, I'm settling in Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. It's in the north, so you can figure that the weather here is quite different from the south of Vietnam. When you visit Vietnam, many visitors would, go visit Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City, and I'm based in Hanoi at the moment.
Fantastic. Great. And what do you do there?
Right now, I'm working as a teacher, and to be specific, I am a foreign language teacher. I train students about IELTS and academic English. Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. And talking about your hometown, about Hanoi, is it an old city?
Yeah, if you think about it, Hanoi is a city with rich and diverse culture and history. I mean, Hanoi has been the capital of Vietnam for several years ago. To be more specific, you can take a look at our architecture, specifically in the old quarter. And there are many old buildings and monuments, and you can see the beauty in the obsolete streets of Hanoi.
Right. I have been to Hanoi, actually. I do
Oh,
remember it.
nice.
Yeah. It was a
What's your
beautiful city. Mm.
what's your favorite part of Hanoi?
Well, I enjoyed the whole city. I tell you what struck me and caught my attention were two things: was the restaurants and the food,
Mhm.
and the motorbikes.
Mm,
Motorbikes with like 4, 5, 6 people on one motorbike
mm.
going around really
Oh,
fast. Um, but also I was struck by the cuisine. I mean, some amazing food that I really
mm.
enjoyed when I was there.
Yes. Have you tried our street food?
I
Because that's
did
our like signature.
Yeah, your kind of your signature dishes. I did try some different street food. I honestly don't know the name because
Mm,
I just had to point and say this one and this one.
mm,
Um,
mm.
some spicy food, but nice. So, on the topic of where are you from and talking about your hometown, Ha An uses some interesting language. Notice at the start, she says, you can figure da, 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 da. And this just means you can imagine, right? So if you're talking about a fairly famous place like London, you can imagine London has a lot of people. You can figure London has a lot of people. It's a different expression, but it's a nice one. Instead of saying I live in, she says I'm based in Hanoi. I'm based in Santander. Based in means that you live there. It can also have the meaning of being temporary, right? I'm based in London. It may suggest that you're going to move to another place in the future. Another word that Anne uses is to settle. I am settling in a city, or I have settled in Santander. Normally, to settle normally is when you move to a new city and you're getting used to living there, and you know where the shops are, you know where the transport goes, and I have settled in Santander. We can also say I have settled down in Santander, meaning that I'm here and probably I'm going to be here for a long time. Great. It was nice that Anne was asking me questions as well. And she asked me about what I thought of Hanoi. And I said, what struck me was, so this means what caught my attention. What struck me in the past. In the present, what strikes me is this, right? This something that catches your attention. You can also say, I was struck by the cuisine. It's true. I was struck by the cuisine in Hanoi. I was actually struck by the very, very strong coffee in Hanoi. But I didn't mention that. Great. Let's move on. I noticed, I mean, that you mentioned the weather earlier, and I remember the kind of the sweltering heat in Hanoi. For you, I mean, when it comes to weather, do you prefer hot weather or cold weather?
Well, actually, the weather is just sweltering in the summer here in Hanoi. Right now, we are in mid-autumn, so it's quite chilly, but not too cold. So it's perfect. It's a little like cool in the morning or evenings. And as a Hanoian, I must say that I prefer cold weather because we have so little of it here. We do not have snow or anything like that. We do not have freezing cold days, just some mild or just chilly weather.
Right. So there's no snow in Hanoi. Have you experienced snow?
I haven't been experiencing any kind of snow. We do have a place in Vietnam, way in the north, that we do have snow in freezing cold days, but it does not look the same as in the picture of other countries. So I would love to visit like countries in Europe where they have, crisp and white snow one day.
Yeah, you should come and visit Spain. I live in the north of Spain, and similar
Mm,
to you, I'm not a big fan of the hot weather.
mm,
I'm more of a cold person. I'm from the north of
mm,
England, but here in the north of Spain, we do have the mountains. We've got what's
mm,
called the Picos de Europa, which is a range of mountains where it snows. People go skiing in the winter.
mm.
It's nice. I mean, it gets really, really cold, but it's lovely, right? Hmm.
So right now, are you based in Spain, like for permanent?
I have been here for 5 years. I live
Mm,
in a town called Santander. Is it permanent? Gosh, that's a big question. And will I stay here forever? To be honest, I think yes. Our family, we've got the intention of staying here, retiring here, and probably
mm.
living our retirement in the north of Spain. Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Nice. Spain is a great country. One of my friend studied abroad in Spain, and she just every time I ask her, she just wants to go back.
Right. Yes. Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's a nice place. Spain is a bit like England. We have to check the weather forecast a lot because it is quite variable. What about for you? Are you often do you often check the weather forecast?
Of course, I have a 2-year-old son, so I have to, drop him off in kindergarten pretty much every day. So in the morning, the first thing that I do is to check the weather forecast, to figure out what to dress him up. Um, because at this age, it's quite easy for him to catch the cold or to get sick. So I want to make sure that he wears enough layers in order to be not, catching the cold.
Absolutely, that's so important. Yes, especially at that age, right?
Mm.
Fantastic.
What
Um,
about you? Do you have to check the weather forecast often?
yes, because I live in the north of Spain, the weather is not very stable. You know, we've got these freezing, strong gales from the north that come over very suddenly, and you can get showers like all of a sudden in the city. But then when it's hot and sunny, it can be really hot. I have a problem with my skin because I'm very fair skinned. If I'm out in the
Mm,
sunshine for a long time, I'll burn. So I need to
mm,
check if it's going to be a sunny day. So I either take my hat or my sun cream to protect myself.
mm.
So yeah, I keep an eye on the weather forecast. Absolutely. It's a bit like England. It's the same. It can you can have 2 or 3 seasons in one day. It just
Mm.
changes.
I
Yes.
heard that in England it rains a lot, right?
Did you know Manchester, where I'm from, is the
Mm.
wettest city in Europe? Apparently, it
Oh,
rains
yes.
about 300 days a year, which is
So yeah,
mad.
pretty much the whole year.
Pretty much the whole year, which is why you know that typical image, the stereotypical image of the British man with an umbrella.
Yes.
It's not true, but people take umbrellas a lot of the time because you never know if it's
Mm.
going to rain. Mm.
Like it's one of the essentials when you go outside, right? Like the phone or the wallet.
Yes, the last thing you must take whenever you leave your home is a umbrella if you're in the north of England. Very, very true. Looking at, I
Interesting.
mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just say that it's interesting because yeah, when I imagine and picture about England or some cities in England, it would be the rain because people talk about it very much. Oh, it's the smog too, right?
Yeah,
It's quite, yeah, foggy and cloudy.
it can be. I think we have less smog nowadays because there are fewer factories and there's strong regulation about that.
Mm,
But the rain, we have so many words like it's pouring, it's chucking it down, it's drizzling.
mm.
We have so many expressions because there is so much rain, I think.
Yeah, actually, I am not a fan of rain. When it's spring here, it's going to be drizzling for a couple of weeks, and we cannot dry our clothes. Everything is wet and muddy.
Right. That's why every house in England has a dryer as well as a
Mm,
washer for the clothes. We have a
mm,
dryer in case it's raining. So, in the section about weather, right, some of the questions were do you prefer hot or cold weather? And some interesting language came out. We talked about sweltering heat, which is very, very hot heat, very intense heat. Freezing cold days. Chilly weather, chilly meaning cold. Crisp white snow. Some lovely language. We also asked each other, do you often check the weather forecast? And of course, in England, you must, and probably in the north of Spain, because the weather is quite variable. You can say the weather is variable or it's changeable. We also talked about freezing strong gales, and you can get showers all of a sudden. So, a shower is when it rains for a short time. We did talk a lot about rain because I think in both countries we have a lot of rain, and we said it's pouring, raining a lot. It's chucking it down, raining a lot. It's drizzling, raining just a little. So, some really nice language. Let's get back into the conversation.
Yeah.
Looking at the weather forecast is it's interesting because it's a theme we were I was mentioning earlier about looking for information and finding information, and I'm curious about that topic, especially for you and for people in Vietnam. How do people get information, generally speaking?
In my country, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, Vietnam is, I think, a big fan of social media. So they would, search for information even on social media, whether it's news articles or news about celebrities and even weather forecasts. So pretty much everything you can find on social media. And the most popular site in Vietnam right now are Facebook and maybe TikTok. Many young people are, huge fans of TikTok
Mm,
because of its entertainment content.
that's
Mm.
interesting. I mean, do you think TikTok is actually a useful source of information, or is it just silly videos about cats dancing?
Mhm. I think it's slowly becoming a news source. At first, TikTok is just a video sharing, platform, but now there are more interesting and insightful things out there on TikTok, like tutorial videos or videos teaching people about English or any skills. So it's slowly becoming more, helpful. I
Mm.
think it's pretty good, especially for young audience, because they really need to focus and be decisive on which channels to follow.
Right. Now, I know that you're a teacher. As a teacher, how do you feel about students accessing information on social media rather than reading books and newspapers and maybe possibly more reliable sources?
Mm. Yes, many of my students were are online pretty much all the time. And I think social media is also a great source for them to get to know about news or even knowledge. But what we cannot control is the, reliability of those sources. So what I'm going to do is to, provide a list of websites that can be trusted for my students to find information from. And I have to be honest that they would love to read the news on social media or on the internet rather than from books because it's way more, convenient and they can read it on the go.
Right. That's true. I appreciate that. It's very, very practical. I mean, when I was a student, I spent a lot of time in the library and doing research and studying from books.
Mm.
I know digitally now people use ebooks. Do you think, with the kind of the digitalization of society, that libraries are going to disappear in the future?
Mm, I don't think so because many people would still find libraries helpful. For example, students studying for a degree or master students or a doctorate degree. So those kinds of students would need a reliable sources and something that are censored and certified. And libraries are the only place that they can find those sources of information rather than on the internet.
Mm.
So when I was studying for my master degree, I I cannot find many of my books online. So I have to, go to the university's library to do research.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I had the same experience. And also, libraries are actually nice places to study, right? I enjoy
Yeah,
the
very focused.
silence. Yeah, they're very inducive or conducive
Mm.
to studying. I think libraries are interesting. What about television? Again, the world's become digital. Do you think television is still relevant?
Yes, I think they're still relevant in the sense that they provide, news from reliable sources TV broadcasting agency are often from the government, and the TV always provide us the latest news with like trusted and insightful information. So I don't think that they are going to be obsolete in the near future. And also, they are a great source of entertainment too. We can still find interesting and entertaining drama series or TV programs, reality shows on TV.
Mhm. Do you watch any foreign programs, like English programs?
Yes, all the time. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I become, fluent in English because I watch so many programs in English. One of the first that I, was hooked on is the MasterChef series.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I am a big fan of it and a big fan of Gordon Ramsay, the host.
Mhm.
Mhm. So,
Join the club. Me too.
yes. So since then, I watch many different programs about different topics, like
Mhm.
American Next Top Models, or I even watch programs about architecture or even space. Yeah,
Mm.
so it's very nice when you can be exposed to so many sources and topics, and
Right.
that's how you can enrich your vocabulary and English skill. And I would suggest that to my students of English too. But with the studying in school, just few of them can manage to do all of that.
Yeah. Every society has what you can call disadvantaged people, right? Whether that's kind of
Mm.
disabled or poor people or maybe the elderly people. Do you think that the internet has impacted these people?
Yeah, that's a very challenging question. Let me think. Actually, in a way, I think technology can help the disadvantaged people. For example, the disabled, because technology can help and assist maybe poor vision or deaf people with like machines or enhanced technology, that sort of thing. But for like disadvantaged people, when you mean poor people, I
Mhm.
think technology has somehow give them more disadvantages. Like
Interesting.
it widens the gap between the rich and the poor. Like for poor people, it's very hard for them to even get a cell phone or get internet access. But right now, everything is on the internet, and they would be very um, falling behind if they do not have access to internet or information.
Mm.
So what I see is that many students coming from, rural areas in Vietnam, they do not have access to the latest technology or take internet information on the internet. So they are, they have the disadvantages when being compared to students in big cities. And it's very unfair because the nation we in our country we have the national exam, and they are they are very um, not being able to compete with other students in the big
Right.
cities.
So in that case, what do you think either society or the government can do to help those disadvantaged
Mhm.
people?
I think at first it has to be something from the government, like an agenda or like a scheme to help students or young people in rural areas to have access to the internet. Because, access to internet at this point is like having access to food and water. It's
Mm.
essential. So I
Right.
think government can play a part in helping all people to have access to information because students there, I think when they have the access, it would going to be helping them tremendously, and they are going to be, yeah, it can literally change their lives.
Yeah. I agree. I think that equality of access to information is really important, like equality of access to education, which is a similar
Mm.
thing. I mean, interestingly, even in in England and Spain, the government have big projects to develop the infrastructure of the internet.
Mm.
So whether it's 5G or cable, or making sure that there's free access to Wi-Fi on public transport, there's a big push. And I wonder sometimes that if, as that develops, that gap actually is never closed, because as it gets better for the richer people, it's the poorer people are
Mm.
still trying to catch up.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. Well, and it's a very, very interesting conversation. We'll have to finish it here for today, but that's great. Maybe I look forward to coming to Vietnam and seeing you, and you're very welcome to come over to Spain.
Yes, I really hope that I can visit Spain one day.
Excellent. The doors are open. I'll put the tea on. I'll put the kettle on for a cup of tea. All right. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, kid. Nice to see
Cheers.
you, and I really looking forward to our video.
So in this topic, searching for information, we talked about people in Vietnam and how they get information. We talked about TikTok. Do you think TikTok is a useful source of information? And also about accessing information on social media as opposed to newspapers and books, right? Some interesting language that came out. Something Ha An said, talking about TikTok, it has interesting and insightful things. Insightful means it's a lovely adjective. It gives you an insight. It gives you information about something. When we talked about the reliability of sources of information, some nice collocations. Control the reliability of sources. You can't, or you can, control the reliability of sources. She said, I think about the social media, it's way more convenient, which is great. A lovely way of saying it's much more convenient. It's way more convenient. That's nice. When we talked about libraries, she said reliable and certified sources of information, which is nice. And I think it was me who said libraries are conducive to studying. I got confused, as I sometimes do, but I think I corrected myself about being inducive or conducive. It's libraries are conducive to studying. So listen, mistakes are okay. All you need to do is self-correct, right? It's fine. We also talked about televisions, and we had some interesting phrases. They provide the latest news. They are not going to be obsolete. So to be obsolete means no longer useful, that they will disappear. And Ha An was saying no, that televisions are not going to be obsolete. We talked about foreign programs. Do you watch any foreign programs? And Ha An said, I was hooked on MasterChef, something you're kind of addictive to. And she said, it's nice to be exposed to so many topics. So to be exposed, lovely form of the passive, to be exposed to so many topics. So to be able to see and to receive information and from those topics. It's nice to be exposed to so many topics. So we also talked about, do you think the internet has impacted disadvantaged people? That could be disabled people, poor people, and so on. Interesting phrases were, it widens the gap between the rich and the poor. Nice collocation. It widens the gap between A and B. And they are falling behind. So I think it was the poor or the poorer people are falling behind. They can't catch up. Great. Another challenging question was, what can the government do to help these disadvantaged people? Interesting phrases were, have access to information. You can also say, get access to information. There is a big push to do something. So when the government has a campaign to do something or a scheme, then there's a big push. They really want to do something. There's a big push to help disabled people, for example. So some very interesting language. Let's move on. So what is it that makes Ha-An such a good and successful speaker and a confident one, right? Notice her fluency. She can keep going without effort, right? She can keep speaking and she's developing topics as she goes. She takes her time, which is great. Notice sometimes she says, "That's a challenging question. Let me think." And it was a difficult question, and that's what a native speaker would do. With grammar, she's careful with her grammar, right? She sometimes slows down to make sure her grammar is accurate, and she's using a mixture of complex and simple grammar. For example, instead of saying, "I see this happening" in Vietnam, she says, "What I see happening is da 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 da." So just that, changing things a little bit to give her a wider range of grammar. With her vocabulary, she does something that is very common in spoken English, and that is repetition, but using slightly different words. She says, "To help and assist deaf people. The government needs an agenda or a scheme." Now, it's the same thing, but repeating it once or twice, beautiful, natural English. Notice she can talk about every topic that I throw at her. It's not so much that she's using fancy vocabulary, it's that she can handle every topic and has got the basics and more for all topics that may appear in the test. So overall, it's important that, to look at the reason that she's so successful in speaking English is high level of fluency, can develop topics, vocabulary to speak about all topics, the range of tenses and mixing them up, complex and simple grammar sometimes, and her pronunciation, absolutely fantastic. So it's the control she has and the confidence. And it takes time, right, to build up this level of English. It doesn't come just like that. So you do need persistence and patience. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that it does show you this idea that natural spoken English is really important in IELTS speaking, and the time it takes to build up to that level. I hope you've got some nice ideas, some language you can start practicing, and a source of inspiration. If you want to find out more about Ha-An and her work, look in the description. You can click on her LinkedIn link and her Facebook page. Find out more about her. If you're in Vietnam, you may want to contact her directly. Thank you so much, Ha-An, for doing the conversation with me. And thanks to all of you for watching and being here. I hope it helps. If you've enjoyed this, please do like the video, subscribe, turn on notifications to find out about upcoming videos. That's it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.